Okay, hi everyone. Let's get started. We've still got a few other people joining, but we're gonna kick off. So yeah, hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be introducing some of the new features of the T-Scan Hawk with the new 2026 software. So yeah, please, yeah, welcome. We've got the chat window open, so please ask any questions in that chat window. They'll hopefully pop up on my screen here. And yeah, we can answer any questions as we go. What we'll also do is have a question and answer time at the end. So hopefully I'll get to them, any questions that appear as we're going, but otherwise we'll get to them all at the end. I've also got Josh on the call who's going to help me field some of the questions a bit later on. But yeah, this is the agenda for what we're going through. So the primary function of today's webinar is to look at the new functions of the T-Scan Hawk. So these are the new features that are coming with the 2026 software. We're going to have a look at some of the new apps, so the World Check and the Tube Check app, a live demo with these new functions. We've got a little bit of a maker story, so one of our customer stories. And then we're going to do a little bonus feature at the end, which is looking at a completely separate technology, which is Super, which is an augmented reality inspection and validation software. It's a really nice tool. I think it could be really useful for some of you guys. So yeah, we're gonna slip that in at the end. So stick around for that. And like I say, question and answer. I'll try and field them as we go, but otherwise we'll handle all of those at the end. Now we've got quite a lot of different backgrounds joining us on the webinar today. We've got some people who are evaluating the technology for potentially future purchase. We've got some of our existing customers. So to start with, let's just do a bit of a broad breakdown on what is hands-on metrology and what is the T-Scan Hawk 2. So hands-on metrology is ZEISS's systems for lots of different applications. So it covers the handheld scanning systems, some of the lower to mid-range optical scanning systems, some CT technology, some tactile technology. And basically this is systems for lots of different types of industries, fabrication, machining, but also reverse engineering, root cause analysis kind of applications. So, you know, it's quite a nice range of technologies that falls under hands-on metrology. Now, this is the kind of the range of technologies that we're talking about. So like I say, structured light systems with the GOM-Scan 1, the Atos Q, and then the laser handheld scanner, the T-Scan Hawk 2, which we're talking about today. Now, all of these systems work in this one software package, which is ZEISS Quality Suite and the ZEISS Inspect software, and that's what we'll be showcasing today. Now, hands-on metrology is also a fantastic website, which is a great resource for a lot more information. There's lots of video content, lots of tutorials on there. So the website, handsonmetrology.com. I know a lot of our existing customers know about this, but it's certainly a really great place to get some really valuable information. So definitely worth checking out. Now, the T-Scan Hawk is our handheld laser scanner. Now, the Hawk has been out for coming on for 2 years now. So it's quite a really well-used package, and it's a really well-designed piece of equipment from ZEISS. Now, what ZEISS are trying to do is develop the technology to its maximum potential. So rather than bringing out new models of technology every year, they have got this great package in the Hawk 2, and they're trying to maximize that technology. And that's what they've done in 2026. You know, they've got their existing technology and they're bringing out new functionality for it. So that means that our existing customers can have access to all of these new features to, you know, improve their through flow, to speed up the scanning, improve the data capture quality. Now, the Hawk is, like I say, is a fantastic system, really easy to use, as I'll demonstrate later on. It's basically a plug-and-play scanning system. So it works on a USB interface just into the laptop right here. And yeah, we can capture a really wide variety of components. So anything from a couple of 100 mil to, you know, up to 10 meters potentially, we can be capturing data to really good quality levels. And it's a very adaptable system. It's also a really portable system. So the whole system comes in a really small carry case, so we can basically take it around wherever it's needed, can have it on the shelf and just take it off the shelf when we need to. And like I say, plug and play system can be up and scanning in a couple of minutes. So really, really, you know, nice, easy to use system like that. Now let's have a look at a quick video. This is going to show us some of the new features, and then
I'm Cornelius, product manager for laser scanners at ZEISS. Today I would like to share how the latest release of ZEISS Inspect software makes your scanning process more efficient when using the T-Scan Hawk 2. With an expanded scanning range, adaptive resolution, continuous satellite mode and enhanced polygonization, we've taken the scanning and inspection capabilities to the next level. Let's get into it. Let's start with the well-known satellite mode. To better adapt to your applications and movement styles, we implemented a new periodic trigger mode. Let me quickly show how it works. With this new software feature, you don't have to trigger the picture manually anymore. Once the trigger is pushed, we take the pictures continuously. All that's left to do is to move the sensor over the part. Thanks to continuous satellite mode, you never miss to capture reference points. This method will significantly increase the ease of performing satellite measurements, especially around big and complicated parts. Having said that, you still get to choose between the standard manual or periodic mode depending on your own preferences. The next update is the extended measurement volume. With this upgrade, you tremendously decrease the number of reference points needed to capture your part, which saves time and manual effort during the inspection process. Beyond that, the extended measurements volume allows you to scan larger areas from greater distances quickly and accurately. In this example, you see the difference between the standard and extended measurement volume. As you can tell, with the extended measuring volume option, I am able to keep reference points at a minimum while scanning this large part way faster. To scan fine details, we've made it even easier for you to set the right resolution. With ZEISS Software 26, we are introducing Adaptive Resolution, a cutting-edge feature that automatically adjusts the resolution based on the characteristics of the part. This ensures that you always achieve the perfect scan. Now that the component is fully scanned, let's take a look at the polygonization process. Lastly, we'll create a complete mesh from the scanned data. Our polygonization process is now simplified with only 2 relevant options. This makes choosing the right mesh creation straightforward. The entire process can be conveniently operated from the sensor. The best thing about it? You're keeping the fast calculation time. That's all for this session. As you have seen, there are numerous updates for your T-Scan 2 with ZEISS Software 26, which will improve your application in terms of speed and data accuracy. For more how-tos, getting started, product updates, or any other question regarding metrology, please visit handsonmetrology.com. You will find the link in the information section of this video. Thanks for watching and have fun scanning with your T-Scan 2.
Yeah, excellent. So that's like a really brief overview on these new functionality. And what we're going to do is have a live demo, and I'll talk about all of those different functions in a little bit more detail. Now, one of the other things I want to mention is the new apps. So ZEISS have developed these apps. Now, they're available within the ZEISS Quality Suite, so within the software that we use. And there's loads of these apps. You can access them in what's called the software store, which is just on the left-hand side menu on the ZEISS Quality Suite. Now, there's some free apps there. There are also some paid-for apps. And they're really just to add functionality to your existing systems. And that could be the Hawk, that could be the structured light systems. There's lots of different apps for different applications. Now, 2 of them that I want to just mention briefly. One of them is the Weld Check app. And this is a really fantastic system for doing visual inspection on welds, or dimensional inspection on welds, back to ISO standards. So the standards that are basically hard-coded into this app. And essentially, we can scan the welds on our fabricated component with our scanning system, T-Scan Hawk or any of the other scanning systems, and then inspect those welds back to ISO standards. Now, I will show you that within the live demo, but it's a really nice function. Now, the other app that I'll just mention is the Tube Check app. So again, it's a great system for all of our different scanning systems, and we can measure tubes and then inspect those back to the essential tube standards, so the VDI standards exporting LRA and XYZ parameters, so the length, radius of the tubes. But we can also do inspection on tubes, so inspecting things like wrinkles and deforms in those tubes essentially at the same time, which is a really nice little function. So this is what ZEISS is trying to do, build additional functionality into the existing platforms. So yeah, let's dive into it. Let's do some scanning. What I'll do is I'll switch off my screen sharing so you can actually see the component here. I'm going to move my camera as well so you can have a little bit of a better look at what we're trying to do. So this is the demo part that we've got. a bull bar that we're going to be scanning. Now I've dotted this up with our reference points. Now the reference points we're using are these little, what we call dice. So it's basically all of the reference points on this little widget, which has got a magnet on, so we can just slip those to the surface, which means you can really nice and easily set up the part. We don't need to put all the stickers on or anything like that. We can just set this up really nice and easily with the dice. So let's go ahead and start scanning. So I'll start my software over here. Now what I'm going to do is switch between live camera view here and software view, and I'll probably get the two mixed up at some point, but hopefully so you can actually see what's going on in the software and what I'm physically doing over here with the scanning system. But as most of you guys will know, existing users, when we're using the scanning system, as soon as we start pressing some buttons, it goes into scanning mode on the laptop. Now, what that means is we can operate the whole scanning system from the sensor itself. We don't need to be touching the laptop to, at any point during the scanning system. So the first new function we're going to be talking about is the satellite mode and the live capture. Now, that button is right here. So under trigger mode, we've got manual, and manual is kind of the old method of capturing it. And now we've got the periodic scanning time. Now, what periodic basically does is I press one button, and this is going to be taking the images and capturing all of that data automatically. So I don't need to keep pressing the button and getting to new positions with the sensor. I can just walk around and start scanning. So what I'll do is just stop sharing so you can actually see what I'm doing on the camera view. Here we go. And basically hit one button, and then that's just going to be capturing all of that data. So I can basically just run around the part. I don't need to keep, getting to those new positions and pressing the trigger button to capture the data. And just try and capture all of those reference points. Spin around to this side, and that should be pretty good. So again, hit the trigger. That's going to finish that off. I will dive back into screen sharing mode and hit the little tick, and then that will polygonize and capture all of our reference points. So now we're good to go with the scanning. So scanning process, really nice and simple. Hit the trigger button once, and we can start scanning. Now, one of the main features of the new functionality is being able to stand a lot further back and still capture that same good quality scanning data that we could before. And that's with this extended measuring volume. Now, what that's going to mean is we need less reference points because they don't need to be as clustered together, and we can still capture a really big surface area, so a much quicker scanning time. So you can see I'm pretty much, I'm capturing most of that backside of that bull bar from just like, one location. And we're just building up that scan data as you normally would. Now we've got some new functionality right here. So existing functionality would be our exposure mode. Now the part that I'm scanning, which you can see on the camera, is quite dark. So what I'm going to do is switch to our dark and shiny surface exposure mode. Now what that's going to do is increase the laser intensity and make it a little bit easier to scan these dark surfaces. Now we can flick between those exposure modes on the fly so we can see which one works best at capturing our data. Now the new functionality is this one right down the bottom here with the point spacing. Now what we're doing is currently set that to a point spacing of 1.2 millimeters, which is pretty big, but that's going to capture our main surface. Now we can set that to automatic. Now what that's going to be able to do is adjust the exposure time depending on basically where I've got the scanning system. So if I start to move in, then we can capture some more detail on some features, and it's still going to be capturing that live data. So let's go around the front here. You can see that building up that data from a lot closer in. Again, I'll just switch back to camera mode so you can kind of see what I'm doing there. Stop sharing. So this is where I was scanning at before. Now, existing users of the system will know that this is a lot further back than what we've been able to scan with our scanning systems. So if we're scanning like a large worded assembly or maybe a wall panel on a shipyard somewhere, we're going to be able to stand a lot further back and capture a lot larger area a lot quicker. But then still be able to move that scanner in and capture those details when we need to. Now I'll switch back to screen sharing, because the other thing that we're able to do is set the point spacing depending on the kind of features that we want to scan. So I've captured kind of the majority of the back surface of the scan quite far away. Now if I switch to maybe a 2x point spacing, now this is going to half the resolution, so we're going to go to 0.6 of a mil, and then we can scan some details. So let's say I'm interested in this weld just on the top of this here. Now if you can see that little square right in the center, that's where it's capturing that high detail, that high density data. So we can just roll that around the features that we need. So maybe this one right here, maybe some of the datum features that I've got over here, and we can just get a bit of a higher resolution scan on some of those features. So, you know, being able to switch between these resolutions on the fly, so go back to that large point spacing, the automatic point spacing, which adjusts depending on where I've got the camera, and then that high detail for those specific areas. And everything can be done from the scanning system without any interaction with the laptop. So really nice function there. Now I've done a partial scan. I haven't gone around the front, but you know, I've been chatting away. You can see what that would be. So the tick is going to then pre-polygonize the data. So it's basically going to give us a visualization on all the data that we've got, and then we can look at some of the that polygonization functionality. So what that is basically done is simplify the polygonization options. So before we had basically, I think maybe 6 different options for polygonization, depending on the level of detail and the amount of data. That's been reduced down to 2. So we've now got surfaces or we've got details. And it's really nice and simple. You know, surfaces is just going to capture really good quality surface data, but it's going to be a slightly quicker polygonization, whereas details is trying to keep as much of the resolution as possible. So if we've got an intricate part with a bit more features, we'd go for detail. If it's just like a nice simple, like say like a wall section or a nice simple panel, then we'd go for surfaces. And that's basically it. So it's just going to speed up that polygonization process. So let's have a look at some data once it's been captured. So what we'll do is I will share a project over here. Just move my camera back around. And we can have a look at some of the data in the software. So here we go. So this is some data that's been captured. As you can see here, the amount of data that we've got on the part and the kind of level of detail that we can get. Yeah, so this is capturing, you know, good data, but quite coarse resolution on the flat surfaces, and then high resolution, in this case, on that welded feature. So we can do that weld check analysis. Now, if we look at the report, this is the pre-generated report. So the scan data will be automatically imported into this report and then updated, or updated straight away. This is going to go through some of our critical dimensions. A little bit of detail about the scan data, some of our great color map information, bit of dimension analysis, some GD&T flatness check across the top there, and then this is the weld check app. So effectively what we're doing here is running a spline along the weld, and that's checking that against the ISO standard, as you can see there. So this has got a 72% pass rate, and then we can see exactly which welds have failed and which portion of the standard it's failed on as well. So yeah, really nice features right there. So so yeah, that is the new functions of the scanning system. Now, one thing that you're probably asking is, how do we get access to these? So let's go from here. So basically, we've got different options depending on if you're an existing customer or if you're a new customer. So nice and simple if you're a new customer. The only additional piece of hardware that's needed for that extended measuring volume is the extended calibration panel. And that calibration panel, you can see the cameras are right here. So it is quite a large piece, but you know, it's yeah, it's just one extra thing that we need there, and that's basically just to calibrate the sensor with that larger measuring volume. So for our new customers, if you're looking at purchasing the Hawk, that is another option that you have during that time, if you want access to that extended measuring volume. Now, for our existing customers, you also need the extended calibration panel for that measuring volume, and also being on an active care plan. So if you purchase a system within the last year, your care plan is active, you should have access to the 2026 software, so the calibration panel is all you need. If you've been with us for over a year and you're not currently on a care plan, then we need to get you back on that to have access to it. But that's basically it. And yeah, so yeah, and I should say that the extended calibration panel is only needed for that extended volume. The other features, such as the constant capture with the satellite mode, the polygonization options, those kind of things, those are available even if you don't have the calibration panel. So the calibration panel is only for that extended measuring volume. So yeah, hopefully that will make sense. Like I say, questions, I'm sure there will be some. I'm sure I've missed some information, so please pop them in the chat and I'll try and cover them off as we go. But yeah, let's move forward. So we're going to have a look at one of the maker stories from Huck Cycles. So let's dive into that.
There's no audio coming through, Ben.
Thank you. You was going to press that button wrong at some point.
On e-bike. My name is Brett. I am the CEO and founder of Huck Cycles. We make rad bikes for rad humans. I wanted to have a motorcycle, so I sought out avenues that would allow me to get that motorcycle experience, and I landed on e-bikes. Went back to my wife and convinced her to allow me to spend a good chunk of money to design and develop and build our own bike.
Well, in 2019, he took plywood cutout of the original Rebel chassis, and he took it to fab shops, and then as he started posting it places, people started wanting it.
The challenge is that there's a lot of confusion in the market right now. What people are calling electric bikes have just exploded onto the market. But they've got pedals, they're really more... A lot of times the manufacturers are restricted as to what they can do. These bikes are unique enough that we have to design everything that fits it the way it's made. So when David designs a bike, he's making the accessories that go on it.
We're such a small company that almost all of us have our hands in the build process, fabrication process, and the design process. With quality control, we have builders that build the bikes according to spec. All the parts and pieces will go onto the bike. They program the bikes, send them out to me. I'll QC all the bikes. I'll go back through and make sure every bolt and everything is torqued correctly, make sure everything is positioned right.
One of the major benefits of having 3D scanning technology is the ability to take scans of everything that we've got in stock that may or may not be correct and compare it with the actual CAD data, and therefore know if it's in spec, out of spec, how much.
Some of our aftermarket products that we use that we don't make ourselves, we don't have full models of them.
It might look like there's space there, but real world, when you're having to fit your hand in there and get tools in there, nuts and bolts, sometimes the fitment just isn't there.
One of the things that I'm most excited about the T-Scan Huck helping us with is the validation and verification of product when it comes in. We'll receive a frame from a supplier, and we have to check each and every frame for accuracy to drawings. We're now able to do a rapid scan, test that against the drawings much faster than we have been historically, so we can go through more verification and quality control with less time and energy. And it's because of tools like the 3D scanning that allow us to do that.
Okay, excellent. So we just had a quick question there from Kamisi about the reference point capture. Basically, yes, that is still required. So once you've done satellite mode, going into the acquisition parameters and setting the reference points to collect automatically is still something that's needed even in 2026. But thanks for that question. Right, now we are going to move on to have a quick look at Super. But please, still happy to answer any questions on the Hawk. Please pop them in the chat or in the Q&A section. And then, yeah, we'll have a look at this this new piece of software that we're supporting. So Super is a completely separate technology from the handheld scanner or any of our metrology devices. It's an augmented reality visual inspection tool. So essentially, we're using an iPad to visually check the components after they're manufactured. Now, this is a really great way of checking things like assemblies, whether features have been built correctly, if holes have been put in the right place, and we can build in like a check plan onto the iPad, and then your operators will just move around the part, checking this visually against the overlay on the iPad. And there's really lots of great features. I've just packed out a couple of features which I kind of find most interesting, but there's lots of really nice features to this tool. So one of them is a little video. So this, first of all, this is kind of how the system works. So you can see the iPad in the top right hand. So that's what the operator is looking at. So essentially the first thing they do is a rough alignment by rotating the CAD model around from a position. Once that's locked in, then you can move around and the overlay is going to move with you from there. And then you can have this build plan. So as you can see there's a number of little callouts that have been placed on the CAD model that are then showing up live on the actual part. So these could be things like, in this case, there's been a bracket that's been welded in the wrong place. So they can visually check that overlay, take an image of that part, which will be then added to the report, and then either accept or reject that feature at that time, and then just work your way around the part through that kind of build plan. And there's lots of different things we can do here. So, that kind of weld overlay is just one of them. We could also be checking for damage, for paint application, whether we need to be, parts need to be painted or not, if there's damage to those painted areas, all of those kind of different features. So yeah, lots of really good things. And then you can see here, this is the report that's being generated. So a full report, just as you would from any of the inspection tools that can then be locked to the part. And then this in combination with a dimensional analysis tool, will give you that full capability of being able to inspect the parts. Now, there are a number of other really nice features to the software. So one of them is being able to overlay PMI data live onto the component. So again, this is coming from the software, and then being able to overlay that dimensional inspection on top of the live view of the part as you're moving it around. I just thought that was a really nice feature. Now, just to be clear, Super is not a dimensional analysis tool, so we're not taking dimensions with this. It's just purely for that visual inspection and that validation. Now, another thing that I quite like is this AI detection. Look, in this case, is looking at holes. So these holes have been again put into the iPad, so that the software knows where they are on the CAD model, and then it will automatically identify if there's a hole in that feature or not. Let me just roll back that video so you can see what it's doing. It's going to replay. So what you'll see is as it moves over a hole, there's like a little scroll wheel that rolls around and then goes green if it detects a hole in that location, or red if it doesn't. So I really like that, especially when we've got like large hole patterns. We can just run around it and check that that the hole actually exists in that location, or if there's an error there. And then the digital reporting, which you kind of already saw in that original video, but being able to then go through that check plan, automatically update the report, and then include things like live images that we take on the iPad of that specific feature. In this case, if it's there or not, or if there's a scratch in that place, or if there's a dent, if there's a defect, if there's a hole missing, there's a hole there that shouldn't be, and we can add all of that kind of information into this report. So it just gives kind of validity to our visual inspection process. So yeah, that is super. So yeah, really nice tool. We've only recently been partnered with them, but quite excited about that product as well. I think it offers a lot in combination with our dimensional analysis options. So yeah, that is a really brief overview on the new functionality to Hawk and Super as a new product. So please fire away any questions. Any questions on Super, I might direct over to Josh. He's a bit more of an expert on that field. Anything Hawk related or ZEISS related, then yeah, happy to handle it right now. Yeah, but thank you very much. This recording will be available. I'm sure some of the questions might be around pricing. Now, I'm not going to mention any pricing information right now, purely because this video might not be watched live, and I don't want to give incorrect information. So please get in touch with us if you want to know about care plans or about specific pricing around the calibration panel, and we'd be more than happy to send that over. I just don't want to give out any false information, so that's why I just won't mention any hard numbers right now. But please get in touch, and we'll yeah, handle that on a customer by customer process.
Can I jump in, Ben?
Of course, yeah.
Just want to say, good job. That was a good presentation. So,
thank you.
Really well done. You look beautiful, by the way.
Oh, wow. Is there a question there? Or?
No. I just also wanted to jump in on Kamisi's point about turning on the automatic reference point collection if you're doing the satellite mode. We only recommend that, if there's reference points that you may not have captured during the satellite mode process. So maybe take it on a sort of a part-by-part basis if that's necessary or not. The other thing that you can do, if you're finding that you need to turn that setting on with each individual project, you can just start a blank project, turn that setting on, and then save that project as a template. So then that setting's sort of saved there, ready to go for you, and then you don't have to switch it on each time. We can help walk you through that process if you've got any questions. But yeah, if anybody else has any questions about anything, please put them in the chat. We'll be here for another minute or so answering them.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Aman, you've usually got a question or two. I don't know if you can, you're a presenter. No, I'm staying quiet today. Maybe I covered everything. Excellent. But yeah, well, if there aren't any questions, then, thank you very much for joining us. The recording will be available. And yeah, please get in touch if you think of anything down the line. Like I say, if you want any pricing information, please let us know. And yeah, we'll jump back on a call and discuss that. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Excellent. No worries. Well, we'll end it there. Thank you very much. Excellent.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. There have been a few questions actually. Sorry, I might have jumped the gun there. Yeah. Has the window update been issued with ZEISS Inspect? Absolutely, it has. There has been an update for ZEISS Inspect 2023 and forward, so 23, 25, and 26. So if you're on that version of the software, then you should be absolutely fine. For some of our much older customers, it might still be an issue if you're not running anything that's 2023 or later. But I don't think any of those customers are. I think we've contacted them all individually. If you are still having issues, let us know and we'll resolve that really quickly. So excellent. On the Hawk, does it have batteries? You need a power supply. So it is a power system. It doesn't have batteries. So as you can see from this camera, it's a cable system into the laptop. It's just a single USB cable, and that goes into just a straight 240 volt wall plug. Now we do run this off of a camping battery essentially when we need to be out in the field. Yeah, so the Hawk doesn't have any batteries directly. It needs to be cable, but we can run it off those kind of power packs, those camping batteries, if we need to. Yeah, excellent. And World Inspect, Josh, do you want to take that one? Can you see that question there?
Yeah, Dee's asked about if weld inspection is included for everyone. It is being developed as a separate add-on to the software, so it does come with an additional cost. I'll reach out to you after this, Dee, and we can have a chat about that if you see some value in it.
Yeah. Excellent. And to Jason, the video should pop up on this within Teams, but also we'll send you out a video link directly. So yeah, thanks to that, Jason. Excellent. Thanks a lot, guys. And yeah, speak to you soon. Cheers.
Yes. Yes, we did. Yeah, no.